The notification sound from his phone made David Chun's stomach clench. Another missed call from his sister. He stared at the screen, showing Maya to 7 missed calls, and felt that familiar weight settle in his chest. "Who was that?" Rebecca asked. From the kitchen, her voice carrying that particular tone he'd learned to recognize over their 3 years of marriage. "Just Maya again." He set the phone face down on the coffee table, the gesture automatic now. Rebecca appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand, her expression a perfect mask of concern. "David, honey, you know how upset you get when you talk to your family? Maybe it's better if you just take a break from them for a while." The words hit him like they always did, a mixture of relief and guilt that made his head spin. Rebecca was right, wasn't she? Every conversation with his parents or sister lately ended in arguments, accusations, hurt feelings. His once close family had become a source of constant stress. "I just don't understand what happened," he said, running his hands through his hair. "We used to be so close. My mom barely speaks to me. Dad thinks I'm selfish, and Maya, he gestured helplessly at the phone. Rebecca crossed the room and sat beside him on the couch, her hand warm on his shoulder. "Sometimes families grow apart, sweetheart. It's not your fault. You've been trying so hard to maintain those relationships, but they keep hurting you." She was right. She was always right. Over the past year, his family had become increasingly critical, increasingly distant. They'd missed his birthday, forgotten their anniversary, made comments about how he'd changed since getting married. The final straw had been Thanksgiving, when his father had actually accused him of being controlled by his wife. The memory still stung. Rebecca had been nothing but gracious, bringing homemade dishes, complimenting his mother's cooking, trying to engage everyone in conversation. But somehow the evening had devolved into a shouting match that ended with David storming out, Rebecca crying in the car. "Maybe you're right," he said quietly. "Maybe I need to focus on us, on our life together." Rebecca smiled and kissed his temple. "That's all I want, David, for us to be happy, to build our own family without all that drama." His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from his mother. "David, please call me. It's important. About Rebecca." The message made his pulse quicken, but Rebecca was already reaching for the phone. "Here, let me put this in the other room so we can have a peaceful evening." "What do you think she wants to talk about?" David asked. But Rebecca was already walking away, his phone in her hand. "Probably just more drama," she called back. "But you know how your mother gets." David settled back into the couch, but something nagged at him. His mother wasn't one for drama. She was practical, straightforward, sometimes to a fault. For her to text about Rebecca specifically, "Rebecca," he called out. "Yes, honey." "What?" "Did you and my mom talk about it Thanksgiving, before the argument started?" Pause. "Oh, just small talk." "She asked about my job. I asked about her garden. Nothing important." But David remembered his mother's face that night. She'd looked confused, hurt, like she'd been blindsided by something. "Actually," he said, standing up, "I think I should call her back." "If she says it's important, David?" Rebecca's voice was sharper now. She appeared in the doorway, still holding his phone. "We talked about this. Your family isn't good for your mental health. Look how worked up you're getting just thinking about calling your mother." She was right again. His heart was racing, his palms sweaty. This was exactly what happened every time he tried to engage with his family. The anxiety, the stress, the inevitable disappointment. "I know," he said, sinking back down. "I know you're right. It's just what? Sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself, like I'm becoming someone I don't recognize." Rebecca's expression softened, and she came back to sit beside him. "You're not losing yourself, David. You're growing.
Ow.
You're becoming the man you were meant to be, without all the baggage your family put on you." She handed him the TV remote. "Here, let's watch something funny. I'll make us some tea." As Rebecca bustled back to the kitchen, David stared at the blank TV screen. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong for months now, but he couldn't put his finger on what. It was like trying to remember a dream. The harder he reached for it, the more it slipped away. His phone was on the kitchen counter now, out of reach. Maya's missed calls, his mother's urgent text. All of it waiting in another room while he sat here paralyzed by confusion and doubt. The tea kettle whistled, and Rebecca's voice drifted from the kitchen. "David, honey, could you come help me with something?" He stood up, but instead of heading to the kitchen, He found himself walking toward the front door. He needed air. He needed to think. "Where are you going?" Rebecca called out. I need a quick walk. Clear my head. In this weather? It's raining." David looked out the window. It was barely sprinkling. "I'll be quick." David wait, but he was already out the door, stepping into the cool evening air. For the first time in months, he felt like he could breathe properly. What had happened to his family? And why did he feel like he was missing something crucial? What do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories. David walked for 20 minutes through the quiet neighborhood, his mind churning. The light rain felt good on his face, washing away the stuffiness that seemed to follow him everywhere these days. By the time he returned home, he'd made a decision. He was going to call his mother. The house was quiet when he entered. Rebecca was in the living room, curled up on the couch with a book, the picture of domestic tranquility. "Feel better?" she asked, looking up with a smile. "Yeah, listen, I'm going to call my mom back. I need to know what she wanted." Rebecca's smile faltered slightly. "David, we just talked about this." "I know, but it'll eat at me if I don't." A quick call. He headed toward the kitchen where his phone was charging, but Rebecca was already moving. "Wait, let me get it for you." She reached the counter first, her body positioned between him and the phone. "Honey, you've got several more calls while you were out. Your father, Maya again. They seem really upset about something." The more reason to call them back, or all the more reason to let them cool off. Rebecca's hand rested on his phone, not quite picking it up. "You know what happened last time you called, when they were worked up? You ended up crying for hours." The memory was fuzzy, but David remembered the tears, remembered feeling drained, empty, like he'd been hollowed out. But he couldn't remember what had been said. "Rebecca, please, just let me." The phone buzzed. Under her hand, she glanced at the screen, and David saw her expression change. Something flickered across her face. Fear? Panic? "What is it?" He asked. "Nothing. Just ... spam call." But she was already declining the call, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "Let me see." David reached for the phone, and for a moment, they were both holding it. Rebecca's grip was surprisingly strong. "David, you're scaring me. You're acting paranoid." "I'm not paranoid. I just want to check my own phone." "Fine." She released it, but her eyes stayed fixed on his face. "But promise me you won't let them drag you down again. Promise me you'll hang up if they start there." Usual manipulation. David unlocked his phone and felt his blood run cold. 17 missed calls, dozens of texts. All from different family members, all in the past 2 hours. "Maya, David, please call me. It's an emergency." His father's son. "We need to talk, now." His mother. "David, we figured out what Rebecca has been doing. We have proof. Uncle Jim. Your wife has been texting us pretending to be you. We have screenshots." The words swam in front of his eyes. He read the messages again, trying to make sense of them. "What ... he started. But his voice came out as a whisper. "What's wrong?" Rebecca asked, but she was backing away from him, toward the living room. David's hand shook as he scrolled through more messages. His cousin Sarah, "The things you said about Mom were unforgivable. But we know it wasn't really you." His Aunt Lisa, "Rebecca's been using your phone to send horrible messages to all of us. We thought you hated us." Rebecca, David said, his voice stronger now. "What is this about?" "I don't know what you're talking about." But she was pale, her eyes darting toward the front door. David's phone rang. Maya's name appeared on the screen, and this time, he answered immediately. "David." "Oh, thank God." Maya's voice was thick with tears. "We've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay? Are you safe?" What do you mean? Am I safe?" "We found them, David. All the messages. Rebecca's been using your phone to text us. Horrible things. She's been pretending to be you, saying you never want to see us again, that you think we're toxic, that you hate us." The room seemed to tilt. David gripped the counter for support. That's not possible. We have screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages sent from your number, but they're not in your text history, are they? She's been deleting them after sending them. With trembling fingers, David opened his text messages. His conversation threads with his family members looked normal, innocuous. But now he remembered Rebecca always volunteered to help him with his phone. She knew his passcode. She often had his phone while he was in the shower or sleeping or out for walks. "David?" Maya's voice was urgent. "Are you there?" He looked up to find Rebecca watching him from the living room doorway. Her face was a mask he'd never seen before, cold, calculating. "The messages started about a year ago," Maya continued. "Right after your wedding, you told Mom that Rebecca thought she was a terrible cook and that you were embarrassed by our family. You told Dad that you thought he was a failure and that you were ashamed to be his son." "I never... David's voice broke. "I would never say those things, we know. That's why we kept trying to talk to you about it. But every time we brought it up, you seemed genuinely confused. Always ready with explanations about why we were being dramatic or manipulative." The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Every family gathering that had gone wrong. Every phone call that had ended in tears. Every time he'd felt like he was losing his mind, like he couldn't trust his own memories. "There's more," Maya said quietly. "She's been texting us from your phone, planning things, dinners, visits, events, then canceling at the last minute with cruel messages. About how we weren't worth your time. We thought you'd become someone we didn't recognize." David's legs gave out. He slumped against the kitchen counter, the phone pressed to his ear. "How did you find out?" "Mom's new phone. She got it last week, and it automatically backed up her messages to the cloud. Dad was helping her set it up and saw all the message threads, David. There are over 200 messages from your number that we never told you about. Rebecca's been systematically destroying your relationship with everyone who loves you." "Why?" The word came out as a sob. "We don't know. But David, you need to get out of there. Now. We're coming to get you." "No." Rebecca's voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. She was standing right behind him now, and in her hand was a kitchen knife. "No one is coming to get anyone." David spun around, the phone still pressed to his ear. "Rebecca, what are you doing?" "What I should have done months ago." Her voice was eerily calm. "Hang up the phone, David." "Maya, call the police," David said. "Into the phone?" I said, "Hang up." Rebecca lunged forward with the knife, but David rolled away, knocking over a chair in his scramble to escape. "David." Maya's voice was screaming from the phone. "Shh, David. What's happening?" He ran toward the living room, but Rebecca was between him and the front door. She was breathing hard, the knife still in her hand, but her eyes were focused and determined. "Don't understand," she said. "I did this for us. For our marriage. They were always going to come between us. Your precious family, always calling, always wanting your attention. I freed you from them. You destroyed my life," David shouted. "You made me think I was going crazy. You were happier without them. Admit it. The past few months, when you stopped talking to them, you were peaceful. We were happy. I was miserable. I thought I was losing my mind." Rebecca's face crumpled. "But we were building something beautiful. Just the two of us. No interference, no drama, no one trying to poison you against me. So you decided to poison me against them instead? I saved you from them," she raised the knife higher. "And I'll save you from this conversation too. You're not leaving me, David. You're not choosing them over me." David's phone was still connected to Maya, and he could hear her voice, tiny and desperate, talking to someone else. "Yes, police. Domestic violence in progress. ... "You called the police?" Rebecca's voice was incredulous. "On your own wife?" "You're not my wife," David said, the words coming from somewhere deep inside him. "My wife wouldn't do this. My wife would want me to be happy, to have relationships with people I love. You're a stranger." For a moment, Rebecca's face went blank. Then she smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing David had ever seen. "If I can't have you," she said, "then no one can." She raised the knife and charged. David threw himself sideways as Rebecca lunged, the knife whistling past his ear. Crashed into the coffee table, sending books and magazines flying, but managed to roll away as she brought the blade down again. "Rebecca, stop!" he shouted, scrambling behind the couch. "This isn't you. This is exactly me. she screamed back, her face twisted with rage. This is who I've always been. Just hit it better. She vaulted over the couch with surprising agility, and David barely managed to dodge another swipe of the knife. His phone had been knocked from his hand in the initial struggle, but he could hear Maya's voice, distant and frantic, still connected. Loved you. Rebecca continued, pursuing him around the living room. I gave you everything. I made you happy. You made me miserable. David grabbed a lamp from the side table and held it between them like a shield. You isolated me from everyone I cared about because they didn't deserve you. She feinted left, then slashed right, the knife catching the lampshade and tearing through it. Your family is mediocre, David. Small-minded, petty people who would have held you back forever. I elevated you. You destroyed me. David backed toward the kitchen, looking for an escape route. The front door was still blocked by Rebecca, but maybe he could reach the back door, or at least find something to defend himself with. I created the perfect life for us, Rebecca said, her voice dropping to an eerie calm as she stalked him. No interference, no drama, no one questioning my methods. You could have been so happy. Your methods? David kept the kitchen island between. Them? You mean psychological torture? I mean love. She slammed her free hand on the counter. Do you know how hard it was? Crafting each message perfectly, making sure they sounded like you but were cruel enough to push your family away? I studied your writing style, your speech patterns, your sense of humor. I became an expert on you. The confession hit David like a physical blow. For how long? Since before we were married? Rebecca's smile was proud, almost nostalgic. I knew your family would be a problem. They loved you too much, needed you too much. So I started planting seeds early. Little comments about how Maya was jealous of our relationship, how your parents were getting too old to understand you, how your cousins were using you. The engagement party, David said suddenly, remembering. You said my mom made a comment? About your dress. She complimented it. Said it was beautiful. Rebecca shrugged. But I needed you to think your family was critical of me. It's called isolation, David. Classic technique. You're insane. I'm thorough. She began moving around the island, forcing him to circle away from her. Did you know your sister cried for 3 hours after the message I sent her on your birthday? I told her you thought she was a disappointment and that you were embarrassed. To be related to her. Maya. David's voice cracked. His sister, who had always been his best friend, his confidant. She called me, sobbing, asking what she'd done wrong, begging me to help her understand why you hated her. I was so sympathetic, such a caring sister-in-law, trying to bridge the gap between you. Red rage clouded David's vision. A monster. I'm a survivor. Rebecca lunged again, and this time David wasn't fast enough. The knife caught his forearm, opening a long, shallow cut that immediately began bleeding. He cried out and stumbled backward, but the pain cleared his head. In the distance, he could hear sirens. Maya had gotten through to the police. You hear that? David said, pressing his hand to the wound. It's over, Rebecca. Even if you kill me, everyone knows what you did. If I kill you, it doesn't matter what they know. But Rebecca's eyes were wild now, desperate. We'll be together forever, Romeo and Juliet. A tragic love story. This isn't love, David shouted. This is obsession. It's the same thing. She came at him again, but David was ready this time. He grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the stovetop and swung it hard, connecting with Rebecca's wrist. She screamed and dropped the knife, which clattered across the kitchen floor. David dove for it. But Rebecca was faster despite her injured wrist. She kicked the knife under the refrigerator, out of reach. Fine, she panted, backing toward the kitchen drawer. There are other ways. She yanked open the drawer and pulled out a larger knife, a chef's knife that gleamed under the kitchen lights. Rebecca. Please, David said, his voice hoarse. This won't fix anything. Even if you kill me, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Is that what you want? I want you to love me the way I love you, she said, tears streaming down her face. Completely, obsessively, without reservation. That's not love, David said softly. That's possession. What's the difference? Love wants the other person to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include you. Rebecca stared at him for a long moment, the knife trembling in her hand. "But I can't be happy without you." "Then you need help, Rebecca. Professional help." The sirens were getting closer now. David could see flashing lights through the living room window. "They're here," he said. "Put down the knife. Let's end this peacefully." "I can't go to prison," Rebecca whispered. "I can't live without you. You won't have to live without me. If you get help, I'll visit you. I'll support you through treatment. But you have to put down the knife." For a moment, David thought she might actually do it. Rebecca's face crumpled. And she looked like the woman he'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. Vulnerable. Lost. Desperate for connection. Then her expression hardened again. "You're lying," she said. "We'll go back to your family, and you'll forget all about me. You'll tell everyone I was crazy, that you never really loved me." "Rebecca, no." She raised the knife above her head. "I can't have you then." Front door exploded inward. Police officers flooded the room, shouting commands, weapons drawn. Rebecca spun toward them, the knife still in her hand, and David saw her face clearly in that moment. She looked relieved. "Drop the weapon," the lead officer shouted. Rebecca smiled at David one last time. "I love you," she said. Then she charged the officers. The sound of the taser was sharp and electric. Rebecca convulsed and collapsed, the knife spinning away across the floor. Within seconds, she was surrounded by officers, handcuffed, and being read her rights. David slumped against the kitchen counter, suddenly exhausted. His arm was still bleeding, but the cut wasn't deep. He'd live. More importantly, he'd survived. "Sir, are you injured?" A paramedic appeared at his side, already examining his wound. "I'm okay," David said, though. He wasn't sure that was true. "Is she?" "She's fine. Taser deployment was successful. She'll be processed and evaluated." David nodded, then looked around the kitchen. His phone was on the floor by the living room, still connected to Maya. He could hear her voice, calling. "His name? Can I?" he asked the paramedic. "Go ahead. I'll take care of this." David retrieved his phone with shaking hands. "Maya, David." "Oh my God, are you okay?" "We heard everything. It's the police, the shouting." "I'm okay," he said, and this time it felt more true. "I'm going to be okay." 3 months later, David sat in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by his family. It was Sunday dinner, tradition they'd resumed after his mother had insisted he move back home while he figured things out. The house was full of voices and laughter, the sounds he'd missed without even realizing it. "More potatoes?" his mother asked, hovering over him with a serving spoon. "Mom, I'm fine. I can serve myself." I know. I just... At." She sat down the spoon and sat beside him on the bed. "I'm still so sorry, David. We should have tried harder to reach you. Should have realized what was happening." "You did try," David said. "I was the one who stopped listening. She had me so turned around I didn't trust my own perceptions." Maya appeared in the doorway, holding his 2-year-old nephew. "David, Tommy wants to show you his new truck." "Uncle David." Tommy launched himself from Maya's arms, and David caught him easily, settling the toddler on his lap. "What's this about a truck?" David asked, genuinely interested. For the first time in over a year, he felt present in his own life. "It's red," Tommy announced, producing a toy fire truck from his pocket, like the ones that came to your house. "It's..." Smile faltered slightly. The night of Rebecca's arrest had been traumatic for the whole family. Maya had stayed on the phone with 911 for 45 minutes, listening to the sounds of struggle and terror. His parents had driven through the night to reach him, arriving at the hospital just as he was being discharged. "That's a very nice truck," David said, examining the toy with appropriate seriousness. "Is the bad lady gone?" Tommy asked, with the directness that only small children possess. "Yes," David said firmly. "She's gone, and she's getting help, so she won't hurt anyone else." Rebecca had been charged with assault, domestic violence, harassment, and stalking. The investigation had uncovered hundreds of messages sent from David's phone, some dating back to their engagement. She'd been remanded for psychiatric evaluation and was currently in a secure facility, awaiting trial. David had visited her once, 2 weeks after the arrest. She'd seemed smaller somehow, medicated and subdued. She'd apologized, claimed she couldn't remember why she'd done it. Said she'd been having episodes since she was a teenager. I really did love you, she'd said through the glass partition. I just didn't know how to love you properly. David had left without saying goodbye. David? Maya's voice brought him back to the present. Dad's asking if you want to help with the barbecue. Yeah, absolutely. David stood up, settling Tommy on his hip. Want to help me and Grandpa cook, buddy? Yes. They made their way downstairs, where the house was bustling with activity. His father was setting up the grill on the back patio. His uncle was arguing with his cousin about football. His aunt was teaching his mother a new recipe in the kitchen. This was what Rebecca had tried to take from him. This chaos, this love, this sense of belonging to something bigger than himself. David, his father called out, "Come here, son. I want to show you something." David approached the grill, where his father was laying out hamburger patties with methodical precision. I've been thinking, his father said, not looking up from his work, about what happened, what she did to us. Dad, we don't have to, yes. We do. His father finally looked at him, and David saw tears in his eyes. She almost won, David. She almost succeeded in destroying our family. It would have been our fault, too, for letting her. It wasn't your fault. It was partly our fault. We knew something was wrong, but we didn't push hard enough. We let pride and hurt feelings get in the way of fighting for you. David felt his own throat tighten. I don't blame you. Maybe you should. Maybe we all need to take responsibility for not recognizing what was happening. His father placed a hand on David's shoulder. But I want you to know something. That woman, she may have sent those messages, but she could never have written them if she really knew you. The David we raised, the David we love, could never say those cruel things. I should have trusted that. Dad, your mother and I, we've been going to counseling, learning about manipulation, about abuse. We want to understand what happened so we can make sure it never happens again. David nodded, unable to speak. And we want you to know, his father continued, that no matter what happens in the future, no matter who you marry or where you go or what you do, we will never stop fighting for you. We will never stop trying to reach you. Even if you tell us to go away, even if you seem to hate us, we'll keep trying. Because that's what family does. I know, David whispered. Do you? Because for a while there, it seemed like you forgot. David looked around the backyard at his family. Maya was pushing Tommy on the swing set his father had built when David was 7. His mother was bringing out a pitcher of lemonade, the same recipe she'd used for his childhood birthday parties. His uncle was setting up the horseshoe pit, already arguing about the rules with his cousin. I didn't forget, David said. I just couldn't hear you over the noise in my head. And now. David smiled, feeling lighter than he had in months. Now it's quiet. Finally quiet. His father clapped him on the back. Good. Now help me with these burgers. Your mother will have my head if I burn them again. As they worked side by side, David reflected on the past few months. The therapy sessions, the legal proceedings, the slow process of rebuilding trust with his family. It had been difficult, sometimes painful, but it had also been healing. He'd learned that Rebecca's behavior had a name: coercive control. She'd used isolation, manipulation, and gaslighting to systematically destroy his relationships and his sense of reality. The therapist had explained that victims of such abuse often felt like they were losing their minds, that their perceptions couldn't be trusted. It's not your fault, the therapist had said, and it's not a sign of weakness. Coercive control is designed to be invisible, to make the victim complicit in their own isolation. David had also learned that recovery was possible. With time, therapy, and the support of his family, he was slowly rebuilding his sense of self. He'd started writing again, something he'd abandoned during his marriage. He'd reconnected with old friends, pursued hobbies Rebecca had discouraged. Most importantly, he'd learned to trust his own perceptions again. David, Maya called from across the yard. Can you help me with something? He looked up to see his sister, struggling with a folding table, one leg stuck in the extended position. Without hesitation, he jogged over to help her. Thanks, she said, as they worked together to fix the table. I was about to call Dad over, but I figured you might actually know what you're doing. Hey, I'm very handy, David protested with mock indignation. Sure you are. Maya grinned at him. Remember when you tried to fix my bike when we were kids? You put the wheel on backwards? That was artistic license. That was incompetence. They both laughed, and David felt that familiar warmth of sibling affection. This was what he'd missed most during his marriage, the easy banter, the shared history. The unconditional love that came with being truly known by another person. Maya, he said as they finished setting up the table. I need to ask you something, shoot. That night when you called 911, ... Were you scared? Maya's expression grew serious, terrified. I thought I was going to lose you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything she put you through, everything she made you think I felt about you. David, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I need you to know that I never stopped loving you. Even when I was confused, even when I couldn't understand what was happening to me, I never stopped loving any of you. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I know. We all know. And I need you to know that if anything like this ever happens again, if I ever start pulling away or acting strange, don't give up on me. Keep fighting. Keep calling. Keep showing up. Deal, Maya said, pulling him into a hug. What? Not having again, okay? Deal. As the afternoon wore on, David found himself truly relaxing for the first time in over a year. He'd played horseshoes with his uncle, helped his mother in the kitchen, and listened to his father's stories about work. Normal, everyday interactions that he'd taken for granted before Rebecca had entered his life. As the sun began to set, the family gathered around the patio table for dinner. David looked around at the faces he loved, his parents, his sister, his nephew, his extended family, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. I want to say something, he announced, standing up. The table fell quiet, all eyes on him. I know this has been a difficult time for all of us. I know what happened with Rebecca affected more than just me. But I want you to know that I'm grateful. Grateful that you never gave up on me. Grateful that you kept fighting even when it seemed like I didn't want you to. He paused, collecting his thoughts. I also want you to know that I'm going to be okay. I'm getting help, I'm healing, and I'm learning to trust myself again. But most importantly, I'm learning to trust you again. To trust that this family, this love, is real and permanent and worth fighting for. His mother wiped her eyes with her napkin. Of course it is, sweetheart. I know that now. I promise you, I will never let anyone come between us again. Not like that. We won't let it happen either, his father said firmly. We're a team, son. Always have been, always will. David sat back down, feeling lighter than he had in months. As conversation resumed around the table, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through his messages. Real messages now, ones he'd sent himself, plans with friends, conversations with his therapist, work emails, and dozens of messages from family. Members at the top of his message list was a text from Maya, "Love you, brother. So glad you're home." David smiled and typed back, "Love you too. Thanks for never giving up on me." As the evening drew to a close and family members began to head home, David found himself on the back porch with his parents. The three of them sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "What are you thinking about?" his mother asked gently. Just ... everything. How different things are now compared to 6 months ago. This is how close I came to losing all of this. But you didn't lose it, his father said. That's what matters, I know. I just keep thinking about Rebecca, about how she must have felt to do something like that. How lonely and desperate she must have been. Can have compassion for her. Without excusing what she did, his mother said, what she did was wrong, but that doesn't mean she isn't human. The therapist says she probably has a personality disorder, that she's been struggling with abandonment issues her whole life. That's sad, his father said, but it doesn't make what she did to you any less traumatic. I know. And I'm not making excuses for her. I just ... hope she gets the help she needs. I hope she can learn to have healthy relationships someday. That's very generous of you, his mother said. Maybe I just need to believe that people can change. The healing is possible. They sat in silence for a while longer each, lost in their own thoughts. David, his father said eventually. Are you happy? David considered the question. 6 months ago, he would have said yes without hesitation, not realizing how hollow that happiness was. Now, surrounded by his family, feeling present in his own life for the first time in over a year, he knew the difference. Yeah, he said, I'm happy. Really happy. Good, his mother said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. That's all we ever wanted for you. As they headed inside, David took one last look at the backyard where he'd spent so much of his childhood. The swing set where Maya had pushed him higher and higher until he felt like he could fly. The garden where his mother had taught him to plant seeds and wait patiently for them to grow. The patio where his father had grilled countless family dinners, each one a celebration of their togetherness. This was home. This was where he belonged. And no one would ever take that away from him again. What did you think of this thrilling journey? Share your favorite moment in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest tales. What kind of story would you like to hear next?